next month, or I keep saying next month. It is now next month. November. It's a big dog.
Dad. Oh, wait, nice. Would you like
There's dessert here for you.
Oh, would you like to? That doesn't rhyme. These old rusty jeans. I hope they fit. That doesn't rhyme.
I was talking to a guy at SOAR, but Mike Lee's the one who set it up, right? That's a...
What's her name?
Yeah.
Charlotte.
It just needs to go off the cuff this time.
What's up, motherfuckers? Hey, Pat, you want a chair, Bubba? We can.
I'm gonna be moving around. Trust me.
Dude, he's doing the Afghani squat.
Dude, I like, bro. That motherfucker's athletic as shit.
Do you do a lot of yoga?
I do.
I hope these are bloopers.
Oh my gosh, dude. The funniest shit that I think that we came up was like, you and I got done with doing that 15,000 meter row, and you were like, "Ken, read this fucking paper," and I was like, "Good."
And you see it in the video trailer.
And you were like, "Put your fucking hands down," and I was like, "Well, fuck, dude, I can't even read right now." My back hurt, my butt cheeks were numb. I was like, "Why would anybody ever do this?" And I think we did it more than once, didn't we?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, that was terrible. That was a good time. I like that.
Oh, so do we just start, Pat?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Do you want a bubble water? It's pineapples.
I guess we can't show the label though.
No, yeah, I heard that. You gotta cover it up. But
Unless they really like it and then they sponsor it.
Ooh, that'd be good.
Yeah.
But I like bubble water. And I really freaking hate water, dude. I gotta put Mio in it or something, and it's like drinking regular peasant water just makes.
Not out here, not where we live.
No.
I'm just kidding.
Can't do that in the pines.
All right, so I guess we'll start this thing.
Yeah, I think we already started.
Do we? I guess we'll do like an official start. Let's do.
Let's do it.
All right, here we are. It's Ken Reed here, back with our fireside chat.
Yep, take number 2.
All right, first one was messed up.
Yeah.
So hey, a little background here on Ken.
Ooh.
About getting ready to retire from a 20-year career in the military.
Yep. Praise Jesus.
About 16 of that was served in special operations. Lived in multiple locations. Been married. Has 3 wonderful children, and one of our awesome instructors and partners here we have at Beyond the Trek.
Well, I wouldn't say awesome, but I appreciate that.
Definitely somebody who adds a lot of value. Somebody who has had a lot of hardships in their life. Definitely somebody who has overcame a lot of adversity and is using those lessons learned to teach others and help them out through life, which has been so far in our very short time that we've had in this organization. You've had a great impact because a lot of those kids continue to reach out to you and ask for your wisdom and your help on a lot of that. So
Yeah.
with that all being said,
That's really cool though. One of the couple of the kids that we've talked to and we've interfaced with, man, still talk to me like every other day, daily basis. You know, there's a couple of them that I go and have lunch with, and I'm teach this kid how to play golf. That was kind of cool.
Yep.
Like, I mean, which is funny because I have no idea how to play golf. I just go out there and act stupid. But thank you, Chad. My name is Ken. Like Chad said, I'm closing up a 20-year career. It's been eventful, to say the least. I never saw myself here. I was one of those kids back in 2004 who joined the Army because I had no other choices. It was like, hey man, you're either gonna do this or you're gonna end up in jail. And then, you know, however long it takes you to get out of jail, you're gonna go back to the coal mines, right? I graduated from high school forcefully.
so where'd you grow up?
So I grew up between Georgia and West Virginia. Between my mom and dad, they split up, I believe the first time, man, I was rather young. I was like probably 4th or 5th grade. It was super toxic, dude. Like, just not a good environment. But the funny thing is here, I'll back this up for you a little bit, and you get a kick out of this. So when I don't remember the age, right? But I know, like I found out, I think when I was like 4 years old, that the woman that I call my mom is not my mom. That's my aunt. And I explained to her, I asked her, I was like, hey, how does this, I don't understand how this works once I got a little bit older. So my mom, at the time, my real father was insanely abusive, and she was scared that I was either going to get beat to death or freeze to death or something. So she gave me to my aunt to take care of. And then get this, dude. This was the funniest thing. My mom told me about this, and I was like, so I was basically a fucking badass from the time I was like this big. And she was like, maybe not, maybe a little dumb, but I was like, so my real mom came and took me back. And at the ripe old age of like 2 years old, dude, I finagled my way out of the house, barefooted in a diaper, and I walked like 3/4 of a mile away from the house, trying to go back to my aunt's before the neighbor found me and took me back to my aunt's. It's like, where the fuck did you find this kid? Like, oh, he was walking on the road. And so I ended up living with them, man.
You got siblings too,
Which
right?
is crazy, yes, because that took into account. So I grew up and there was 11 of us. You know, I had my sisters, brother, all together there was 11 of us kids. So it was weird growing up. Anywhere, my oldest brother's like, I'm 37 years old now. My oldest brother's in his mid-50s. And then down to my youngest, my little brother's like 30 years old. So for a long time I was the youngest. But it was just constant chaos, man. It was one of those places that like we grew up, we were truly feral kids. We grew up poor as hell. In the middle of like backwoods West Virginia, and then like small town Georgia. My brothers and I did dumb stuff growing up, dude. We were constantly hurting each other. It became a game. We didn't have a lot of stuff to do, so we were either outside or we were abusing the crap out of each other. You met my brothers. That was fun. Chad actually met one of my brothers right after I skipped him across the lake and busted his face completely open. His entire length of his eyebrow was cut. He pops his head out of water, there's blood all over his face. And so that was Chad's first experience with him. That was pretty cool. But we were bad, man, growing up, and we never really, I guess we didn't really like understand that wasn't okay. We just kind of did whatever we wanted. Until I got older, you know, I started getting in trouble and stuff like that. And every time
You guys grew up around the coal mines that were still hopping and popping.
Oh yeah, yeah, it was a big thing up there, man. We had a long conversation about that on our car ride. Coal mines was the thing to do. You got out of school, man. You went to the coal mines. I was like, dude, I can't do that, man. I've been in those mines. Like, I don't want to be under there all day, every day, right? I don't want to live myself a mile under the ground. You know, I'd see these guys come out of there like just covered in coal dirt. My dad died early. Both my dads actually. So one was my uncle, congestive heart failure and cancer, and then my dad died of lung cancer. That's what the coal mines gives you, you know, bad back and cancer. So, you know, I had a couple decent little run-ins, and I was getting myself into some trouble. About the age of 17, man, I was like, dude, I gotta get the fuck out of here. Like, I've got to go. I have no other choices. And I was given an ultimatum, right? It was like, hey, man, you need to get out of here. And so I chose the Army, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna do 4 years, and then I'm gonna get out, and I'm gonna go find something. And I was like, man, maybe I'll go to college, or, you know, whatever. That took a long time, because when I enlisted in the Army, college wasn't a big deal, right? You could make it all the way through the ranks without having any college. And that changed as you went on. But I was in AIT, and I got orders for Germany.
You joined as a medic though, right?
Yep. In AIT, got orders for Germany, man, and I was dating a girl. I started dating this girl in March, and I got orders, and I went home in September, and I married this girl. And so, like, mind you, I went to basic training in June, so March, April, May, June. Now, we were together for like 4 months before I went off to the Army. And I was like, yeah, this is the one, dude. This is the fucking one. Little did I know, it was not the one. So, you know, I come home, we get married. Fast forward to get done with AIT. Come back, pick her up, and we head to Germany. Dude, I got to Germany, and it was just like, go, 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 go. I think she was there for like a year, dude. She was like, I'm not doing this. She's like, I'll go back to the States. And I was like, okay, cool, whatever. I don't give a shit. And she did. She goes back to the States. And then I was in Iraq in 2009, and I did it wasn't no more than 6-month tours. I did a year. I'd call her and talk to her when I got the chance and stuff like that. And 2009 in Iraq wasn't crazy, right? You were there.
I did. I always did Afghanistan. I never did.
Oh, okay.
Iraq, yeah.
Well, it wasn't
But
bad.
in the army though, right? Like at the time, you're right. Like at the time, Iraq was the hotness. You know what I mean? Afghanistan had taken a complete back burner to what was going on, because you were hearing about IEDs, right? You were hearing about EFPs. You were hearing about everything that was coming out of there. Guys that were going into Fallujah. Ramadi was a hot spot.
Oh, yeah.
And like IEDs were taking Abrams and flipping them up like that.
It was, dude,
that was the hotness, right? Afghanistan was like, not a big deal.
Right. It was at that time, like people were like, man, I really, really hope I get shot at today and not blown up, because that would suck. But while I'm gone, man, I'm trying to like get my life together, and I'm trying to figure some stuff out. And, I'm not really confident in this relationship. I was gone, I would call her and she wouldn't answer, or, whatever, wouldn't talk to her, wouldn't answer voicemails. Text messages, text messages. I didn't do that then. Emails. I get on Skype. She wouldn't answer. So I come back one day and I walk into my little chew, and looking at like my messages, I'm like, oh, okay. She sends me a message and she's like, hey, your brother died. You need to call your mom. Just straight off, dude. Nobody, hey, you need to talk to somebody. No, whatever. None of that shit. So I was like, holy hell, dude, I don't even know what's going on. The sirens are crazy right now.
Yeah. So that's why we're outside.
Yeah, right? So, I go call my mom. She tells me, and like, here, so my brothers, man, all of my brothers were pretty bad on drugs. And I mean, my sister too, but like it was always drugs, dude. So my brother died of a heroin overdose. So I go and talk to my first sergeant, was Tom, and his dude was pretty cool, man. Like, I was like, hey, he was like, dude, let's go. He like grabbed my stuff with me, took me to the flight line. He put me on a helicopter, took a helicopter, got on a plane, and freaking bounced out. So didn't tell nobody. I was just like, it was like, hey, get your shit and go. So there was no time to call nobody, and it was just like boom, 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 back to airports, because everybody was like, I didn't have a cell phone. It wasn't like I could turn a cell phone on and call somebody. So I get to the airport, I get a taxi, and I'm like, hey, this is my then wife's apartment. So can you take me back here? And he's like, yeah, I got you, man. I pull up, this is, her car, and then another truck in the driveway. And I'm like, all right, well, there's another house around the back, so I don't know. So I walk in the house, dude, and like I'm still in fatigues, bro. Like I haven't even like changed my clothes from the shit I had on in Iraq. And I walk in, and this dude is sitting on the couch, and I'm like, he like looks at me and he like jumps up and he's like, what are you doing here? Who the fuck are you? And I was like, bro, this is my house. What are you doing here? And he was like, this is my girlfriend's house. I was like, oh yeah? I was like, that's cool, man. It's my wife's house. And he was like, kind of just like gives me this dumbass look. And I was like, probably the same person, buddy. I was like, I look around, all this stuff, dude. Everything, any pictures of us were off the walls. There was nothing up, dude. It was just like bare bones bullshit. And I was like, all right, tight. And this dude, like, she comes out, obviously. We had I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm just going to get my stuff. This dude literally, bro, like, comes outside, and he was like, man, where were you at? And I was like, I was gone, bro. He goes, dude, gets the keys. Like, he didn't know what was in that shed. She would always tell him, oh, yeah, it's the landlord's shed. You can't get in there. All my stuff was packed away in there, bro. So this dude helps me unpack this shed into his truck and calls my brother. My brother comes over, takes my stuff to his house, and this dude follows him. We unloaded my brother's house. I'm there for the funeral. Things go off, and I get back to Iraq. We're just like, she would start sending me emails then, and then, all this other shit. And I was like, dude, whatever, I'm not even gonna answer. And then I think that was like September. So I come back to the States in February, and then I go back to Germany. And I go back to Germany, we're going through the divorce and everything like that. trying to get through this, dude, and she's like fighting me tooth and nail on this freaking divorce, bro. And like, of course, you know, she's talking to other military wives and they're giving her all this great advice. And she's like, oh no, he owes you this much money. Mind you, bro, I'm like a friggin' E5 at the time. Like, I don't make any money. And oh, you know, I'm paying her this because I'm like, dude, if I don't, she'll call my command. 9 months of this goes by, dude, and I'm waiting to go back to Bragg, right? I went to selection already, and I'm just waiting to go back to Bragg at this point. And even when I was in selection, dude, she called Bragg. She called somehow, and no, she's not going to know how to get a hold of this. So somebody's fucking husband was screwing me over and found the number to the selection committee, and they called selection while I was there and was like, oh, he doesn't pay his wife and he's abandoning her and all this other shit. And I was like, okay, you don't mention all the other crap that she's done, right? I was like, whatever, man. So one of the selection cadre was like, I went in there, dude, he made me get on the computer, send her money. He was like, take care of it right now. I was like, okay. And I went out, as I'm leaving, he was like, you get a divorce or you're not coming back here. And I was like, does that mean I'm selected? He's like, get out of here, candidate. I was like, roger that, sir. So, you know, I go on and kick rocks and leave the place, and they ended up getting selected, and I go back to Germany. Sat down with my commander then, man. Not gonna name drop this dude, but he was the coolest fucking lieutenant colonel that I've ever met in my life. Like, old dude, and just crusty, bro. But like, I sat down with him. She calls him. She was like, oh, he didn't pay me any money, blah, 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 blah. And he comes, instead of like yelling at some other senior NCO to come yell at me, he was like, he comes and finds me. He was like, hey man, come on, let's go. Let's have a conversation. And I sat down at his computer, bro, and he made me pull up my bank statements. He was like, show me how much money you paid her. And I know this is like a side quest right now, but he showed me. He's like, you're paid up for 4 years, big dog. He's like, this is how much you got to pay her, and this is how much you're paying her. He's like, and then, so she calls him again. And he was like, no, ma'am, you know, I'm sorry. Like, he's paid you this much. That's when she signed the divorce paperwork. Finally, right? Got married the next day, and she was pregnant in the divorce hearing, so that was cool. So it was just trying to milk it out. But ended up coming back to the States, man. I started a Q course. Right, trauma is trauma is trauma. We always say that. But I had some like deep-seated issues that I wasn't handling from Iraq. You know, there was a lot of things that happened, and friends died and stuff like that. That it wasn't cooking with me right. But I was like, okay, well, you know, I'll just drink until I can sleep. Let's make it better. So, and this is how I was dealing with my problems. A couple months go by, man, and I finally come back to the States. Get back to the States. No sooner I get back to the States, man, my mom calls me and she was like, hey, your brother-in-law died of a heroin overdose. Okay. A couple months later, my sister was murdered. And like, I'm not talking like a little bit of murdered. Like, she was like hardcore murdered. And my nephew had to go identify the body, who was 12 at the time. You know Zach. And then shortly after that, my other brother-in-law died of a heroin overdose. And then shortly after that, my brother was hit by a train. So like, I'm constantly back and forth, dude, between West Virginia and Bragg, like trying to get all this stuff done. And like trying to maintain a relationship with my then girlfriend, well, my now wife. And we're just on the freaking struggle bus, bro. And then like once my sister died, we weren't even married, and she was like, we have to get custody of your nephew. He's ward of the state right now. He's in foster care at 12 years old. We have to get custody of him. Bro, so we poured every bit of our paychecks at the time, like all of our money, into getting lawyers and all this other shit and petitioning and paying for all this other crap, bro. Like to the point where like my youngest son, we would feed him. Dude, Lacey and I would go without food for days. Or like I would steal a case of MREs from work, bro. Like just so we could eat. Cause like we were trying to make our bills and we were trying to feed him. And then we had daycare, which thank you CDC for charging 2 E5s $1,400 a month in daycare fees. You're awesome for that. And so like we're throwing money everywhere, dude, because both of us are like terrified of going out on our bills. On top of that, my ex-wife I gave her a general power of attorney, because at that time that's what you did, right? You deployed, you gave general power of attorney. She took out tons of loans, bought a car, like maxed out a bunch of credit cards and didn't pay them, bought her boyfriend a cell phone. Like, it was all kinds of cool stuff, man. She was just like cooking with that. And so I didn't know about any of this. So I started getting hit with debt collectors, bro, on top of like throwing all this money away. It was terrible. Like, so we were just throwing cash at every which way you could, man, just to try to make ends meet. And we finally get custody of my nephew. And at that time, we were like, okay, we're living in a freaking 2-bedroom apartment. So we get our finances straight enough to buy a small house. I'm like, all right, the boys have a yard. They both have a bedroom. Life is better. And we start to work these things out, man. And it's just like, that's when the deployment started.
Yeah, so at this time here, right, you're done through the Q course, done with everything.
Yep.
I know we moved through that a little bit, right? So you guys got custody of your nephew now. You've
Yep.
been going back and forth. You and Lacey finally catch a little break, buy a house. When was that? Right around
13.
Yeah, around
Yep.
2013, right? As soon as you catch the break, the train's about to derail again because
dude.
now it's about time to start going back out the door again.
So
right?
it hit me like a freaking tank, bro. And it was just like PMT, deploy, school, TDY, TDY. It was all these things, right? It was just like thing after thing after thing after thing. Mind you, Lacey's still in the Army. And here's what gets me, right? Now that I think about it, I'm like, I would 1,000% change everything that I did. Because I would come home and I'd be like, hey, I got to go do this. I got to go do this. I got to go do this. And she's like, okay. I not one freaking time was like, hey, what do you think? Can you handle this? Can we do this? Do I need, the only thing I thought in my mind, bro, was like the Army gave me my sense of purpose. The Army gave me my sense of identity. And the Army gave me the accolades that I was craving.
Yeah, and by 2013, right, you'd already been in the Army. You came in 2004. You'd already been in 9 years.
Yep.
You'd already been to Iraq. You'd already been downrange, right? And, right, divorced.
Divorced, yep.
Going
Drinking
through-
problem, heavy drinking problem.
Yep. And for people that don't know, right, like pre-mission training prior to going out the door, there's a lot that happens in that. And back in that time, right, we were doing 6 on, 6 off.
Yeah.
6 months deployed, 6 months home. But once you get home, you take your block leave. Once you take your block leave, you roll right back into
You're right back into PMC.
right into training, right? And a lot of that training isn't here, right? It's
Exactly.
it's other places.
Yep.
So when people say, "Well, you were home 6 months," you know what? You were probably home a month and a half,
dude.
maybe.
Yes, maybe
out of
2
that-
months. I would say 3 months at the maximum
Yeah.
of actually being at home. But then when you're out the office, dude, you come home, you're stressed out. You know, you're working all this other crap. But like,
So 2013 is when it all starts, right? It really starts ramping up.
it picks up big time. So, you know, I'm trying to run full speed ahead, man. And I was always telling Lisa, I was like, hey, you got this. She never once batted an eye. She was like, yep, screw it. I did it. So she gets pregnant with Eliana, my 10-year-old. And she has Eliana, 2014, and I turned around and left again. Come back, you know, a few months later, like everything's kosher, we're hanging out. Of course, you know, she gets pregnant with Kennedy.
So how long were you gone for in 2014? 6 months?
Yeah.
Okay. Then you're back
Well, no,
home.
before and after altogether, it was about 6 months.
Yeah.
Because like, my daughters are Irish twins. Again, shout out to Womack for placing an IUD that did not work. And then once they removed it, they realized it was placed wrong. So thank you for that. I have a beautiful daughter because of them. So I'm not being sarcastic at all. At the time, I probably could have ate a wall just to fucking headbutt one of them. But now, retrospect, it's whatever, dude. My daughter's amazing. So she gets pregnant again. She has Kennedy. She was pissed off the entire pregnancy. She didn't want to be pregnant. She just had a baby a couple months before. So she's just angry, dude. Just angry the entire pregnancy. And I was like, dude, screw this, man. I was like, I'm out of here. Like, I don't want to be around this woman. She's mean. And so she had Kennedy. I was home for that, and then I left a week later. And then I came home. I was gone for a month. I came home for a week, and then I left again for 6 months to deploy. At no time was I like, hey guys, can I take like that paternity leave thing that used to be only like 3 weeks for us? No, never once, dude. I was just like, no, yo, she's got it. So fast forward to 2016, dude. They're getting pretty upset with her because she's been on Fort Bragg since 2010. And so they're like, hey, man, you need to get the hell out of here. So she gets orders to Korea. She defers her orders. And so I was like, because I threw a fit, bro, straight up. Like, I was like, what do you mean? You going to fucking leave your family? You're just going to leave us? Yeah, I know.
Meanwhile, on the backside, right?
Right.
Blowing some holes through, that's what you've been doing.
I'm running a million miles, and I didn't, like, at the time I didn't understand. I was like, I had this idea of what a woman's role was, you know, and it's stupid. Please do not crucify me. I get it. I understand. But, like, I had this idea of what she was supposed to be doing. Never did I take into account her career.
You were also like on a team, right? With the guys.
Yep, always.
And when the guys are going to go,
yeah, you don't want to leave.
you're going to go.
Yeah.
Right.
So, you know, it comes up, fast forward, it comes up again in 2017. And at that time, I was like, all right. I was like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm going to go to Egypt for a year. I was like, sick. I got this shit. So when she deployed, I was starting PMT cycle because she deployed in July that year, and I was leaving in January of 18 for my deployment. So I was going to be home with my kids for about 5, maybe 6 months, and then I was leaving again, and my kids were going to be with their grandparents. So in the time that I was home, dude, because I had never handled anything, like I overdrew the accounts. I freaking missed bills, like all this other stuff, because I was like, I can do this. I can freaking pay bills. No, I can't. I had no idea. She even wrote it down. She tried to teach me. She tried to show me, and I would just forget, dude. Like, I never even thought about it, right? But the normal thing that she had done, she come home for Christmas on her block leave. So
R&R.
like, yeah. So it was, I still think it's funny. She didn't think it was funny, but I thought it was funny. I come downstairs, man. It's like 8 o'clock in the morning, bro. I come downstairs. We're getting a cup of coffee. Eliana sitting in the kitchen floor with a gallon of ice cream, just like chowing down. Kennedy was sitting on the couch. Mind you, they're like 3 and 4 years old at this time. Kennedy was sitting on the couch eating a stick of butter like a banana. And she was like, what are they doing? I was like, they're eating. What's wrong with... She was like, they can't eat just butter and ice cream at 8 o'clock in the morning. I was like, why not? They're not screaming. They're not yelling at me. Like, she was like, oh my God. So, needless to say, when my mom came to stay with the kids, my wife was very, very pleased with the, because I was like, yeah, whatever. You guys are good. Do whatever you want. Just don't scream anymore, please. I did not know how to parent. Like, I would come into the house, I would do some fun stuff, and then I would leave again. There was no disciplinary action. There was nothing like that. Like, I had no idea. And so the 18 thing rolls around. Kids are, we're gone together, or not together. We're gone, but the kids are by themselves. Once we reconvene as a family, I told them, I was like, hey guys, like, I need a little bit of a break, man.
This was 2019, right?
This was the middle of 2018. And so I was like, all right, I need a little bit of a break. I had some time. I went to some schools. I was still on a team, but like I went to some schools and stuff. And I didn't deploy again until the middle of 2020, right? COVID kicked off. Like, I had went to NTC like 3 times. I was the guy that was like in limbo because my dwell time was over 6 months. So they were like, send him. So I was just constantly going on TDY all the time. Schools, CTCs, all this other crap. So, dude, 2020 rolls around, man. And that's when we hit our breaking point. And like, I come back from the 2020 rotation and I was like, she was just on it, bro. And I was like, I can't do this. I'm not going to do this anymore. I was like, I am done. And it started to come out. Like, we started to have the conversations. Like, I was like, I feel this way about our relationship. She's like, yep, okay. And like, we're having these conversations, and it got to the point was like, she finally stops and she gives me that ultimatum, and she was like, okay, do you want this to work? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, you got to leave this post. You have got to get the hell. She's like, because if you're still here, you're still going to do you. And I was like, yep, you're right. So I ended up getting orders to NTC. We got out to NTC, man, and that was the first time in almost my entire career, besides some like small breaks, that I was left to my own fucking devices. as a very senior ranking non-commissioned officer in the Army, but mentally still a child. And I got there, man, and I had my schedule was made out for 2 years. I'd take care of my rotations, and once my rotations were done, we were good, dude. Like, I would come to work. I was doing PT all the time. I'd never gotten help for any of my mental issues, like the trauma or anything else that happened to me throughout the years. I'd never gotten any help for that, right? Like, it wasn't something that you did. Because if you go to BH, you're weak. Or I would always get that story, you know, like, you go to BH, you're weak. Or if you tell them what's wrong with you, they'll take your guns. And I was like, well, you know, I want to keep my rights, man. It's my right. And I was like, so I never went, and I never told anybody. And then when they would make me go tell somebody. They would make me go sit down with anybody. I was like, no, man, I'm fine. I sleep great. Like, I don't have nightmares. Like, everything in my house is perfect. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, cool, man. Here you go. You know, you're cleared. So when I got out there, dude, Lacey was working. She was working a full-time job. She was working at the hospital. And I was at the house all the time. You know, if I wasn't in rotation, like, I would go hard during rotation, but if I wasn't in rotation, dude, I was taking the kids. I'd get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go do PT. I was taking the kids to school, and I was picking them up, and I was cooking, and I was cleaning. I was a whole-ass house daddy, bro. Like, I made sure I was cooking and doing everything that she wanted me to do. But what I wasn't realizing that I was doing was drinking myself to sleep every night, because I would, like, at 7 o'clock at night, bro, everything's done, and I'm sitting there watching TV, and I would just start drinking. And I would drink for a solid 2.5 hours, and I would just pass out. It got to the point where, like, I started getting ashamed because I was drinking like a handle of whiskey like every 3 days. So I would get my handle of whiskey and I'd put it in the kitchen, but then I would hide my bottles so that I could pour it in my cup, so that way it wasn't outright noticeably how much I was drinking. Because, of course, you know, you build up tolerance and stuff. And then I got to the point at one time where I got into work one morning, and I would keep shooters in my truck, and I would go to work, or I would go into the shopette, and I would get my cup of coffee, and I would come out, and I would dump a shooter in my coffee. Bro, because I was like shakes, man, in the morning. I'm so stupid. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I was like, hey, I just can't steady my freaking nerves, man. It's my pre-workout or something. No, dude, I've been DTs, dude, every day. So I got to this point, man, and like one time, I don't know what happened, bro. For some reason, I didn't sleep for like 3 days. And I was going to BH, man, and I was talking to this guy like once a month, and I was like, dude, I was trying to tell him. I was like, I can't sleep, bro. I'm telling you. Oh, you know, you have sleep apnea? And I was like, I have a fucking CPAP. Like, I sleep with the thing on my face, dude. I know I cannot sleep. And then when I do get sleep, it's broken. And I get max 2 hours a night. And he's like, okay, you know, we're going to give you this stuff. You give these pills. And I'm like, what? At this point, I was like, I don't give a shit what you give me. Just give me something. Dude, he gave me some pills, man, that made my nightmares vivid. Like, not to the point of where, like, you could... Usually you have a nightmare, you wake up in the morning, you don't remember it. Oh, no, dude, I remembered everything at this point. And it made them vivid. I went back and I was like, bro, I can't take these. And he was like, oh, you know, it's all right. It's not for everybody, man. He's like, you just need to work on your sleep and you'll be okay. And I was like, all right. So I started seeing another doc. Dude's cool as hell, man. I really, really appreciated this guy. And he was trying to talk to me. He was trying to get through to me. And I would go in and sit and talk to him. He's like, listen, dude, I need you to like actually talk to me and tell me what's going on. And the thing was, man, I was getting these sporadic appointments, and then I would cancel them because rotation would come around. And so I'd cancel it. So there would be like, I'd get an appointment, and then, you know, a month later, another one. So there was never like any comprehensive therapeutic effect to anything I was doing. The dude, I got in the point one night, man, I got in my truck, and I couldn't sleep. I was like, dude, fuck this, I'm done. And like, for some reason, man, I was in this headspace where I was just like, I am so useless. Like, I'm useless to myself. I'm useless to my family. I was like, I am a giant piece of shit. And I could not get out of that for days. I was like, I am a terrible fucking person. And so I was like, I am done with this. So, grabbed my handle of Jameson, drove out into the middle of the desert, And I sat there and I started drinking and just like fucking drinking, dude. And I came up with, I was like, I had an epiphany at that point in my life. I was like, the world will be a better place without me dragging it down. In my silly ass way of thinking. So I grabbed my gun. JB and I went to the range a couple days before that. Tell him like, hey man, you can shoot my pistol all you want. When you get done, throw my mag back in there and throw it in the console of my truck. He threw the gun in the console with an empty mag in it. He took the protection rounds that I usually keep in the gun and just threw them in our range bag. Didn't think anything of it, and he comes home and he cleans the gun. He was like, oh, Dad, I was just going to put it back in there later. Dude, I grabbed that gun out and I felt the weight of it, and I was like, I pulled it back and I was like, fuck this. Dude, I started ramping that truck apart, man. I was like, there's got to be a round in here. And I looked and I looked and I looked, and I got so fucking mad, dude. I was pissed. And I finally was like, fuck it. I drank damn near the entirety. I was like, I'm going to die of alcohol poisoning. I was like, if I can't kill myself, I'm going to fucking drink all this content. I had such a tolerance that it didn't work. I just threw up. It was bad. My buddy come to get me, man. He took me, like he found me. Takes me to his house, dude. Like cleans me up, puts me in bed. Next morning, dude, I woke up. He was like, go to the hospital. I was like, I'm good, man. He was like, no. He's a big boy. He was like, I will physically take you to the hospital. He's like, you may get a couple good hits on me, but you will go. So we go to the hospital, dude, and I walked into BH, and I was like, hey, I need to see somebody. And I'm smelling like alcohol and just vomit, dude. And he's like, the little guy at the front desk was like, yeah, we don't have anything right now. And I was like, no, I'm not. It wasn't a fucking request. I need to see somebody. And he's like, I was like, listen, dude, if you don't fucking let me talk to somebody right now, I'm going to start a shotgun. And he was like, oh, okay. So my doc comes out and he was like, all right, Ken, well, you're going to San Diego, buddy. And I was like, I don't want to go to San Diego. And he's like, well, you're going. So I spent almost a month in San Diego's behavioral health prison. And I say it's a prison because the walls were like 20 feet high and there was concertina wire. There's Nacho. So for the first 2 weeks, dude, I fought it hard. I would go in there and I would sit and I'd be like, man, screw this. Like, I'm not talking to these fucking people. I was like, you have no idea what I've been through in my life. And like, a bunch of fucking pretentious, college-educated fucking people. And I was like, I'm not talking to these people, dude. This is so dumb. And I would just sit there and they'd be like, oh, Ken, you have anything to add? And I'm like, nope. And so every couple days, every 3 days, or every 2 days, you would have an individual therapist come in. And they would come in this little room and sit and talk to you, man. And this little lady comes in, bro. She's probably like late 60s. And I'm sitting in this office with her, dude. They barricaded me in this fucking office. They had a padded room there. It was the most peaceful place to sleep. And if you scream at the nurses, they make you sleep in the padded room. So that was fun. So that happened quite a few times. But I went and I was sitting there talking to the doc, dude. And I was like, listen, lady, I was like, you have no fucking idea what I've done in my life. Like, you have no idea. And this little lady, she had the strongest, like, Russian accent. And she was like, oh. She was like, well, where, she was asking me about places I've been. And she was like, oh, I was there in the late 80s.
She means Afghanistan.
Yeah. And she was like, I was like, oh, shit. I was like, okay. And she was like, yeah, I was a spy for the Soviet Union. I was like, you supposed to be here? And she's like, oh, yeah, I defected, like, started telling me all that. She got her degree as a therapist, started doing all this stuff. Dude, she pulled off her mask, because, we were still doing that at the time. Homegirl had a fucking scar on the side of her face, bro. And she was like, yeah, they tried to kill me. Like, shot her in the face. And I was like, holy shit. So we actually sat down and had a conversation about that for a while. Dude, that night we sat for like 4 hours, man, and she started talking to me, and she like pulled it out of me. Bro, I walked out of that room bawling my fucking eyes out. Like a ball of mush, dude. It was terrible. I was like, oh my God, man, like what the fuck is this lady doing? And then after that, I was like, she come back, dude, like 2 days later. She's like, all right, come on, Kenny. I was like, I don't want to talk to you. And there was one other guy that was there with me, man. It was like my age. And he was like, dude, go talk to her. He's like, you know you need it. Bro, same thing, man. In there with her for like 3 hours, bro. I came out crying. I was like, oh my God. But I came back, dude, and I started to realize, I was like, it's not the end of the fucking world. Like, the way that you feel is not the way that other people feel about you. You know, you get in your head with these things. And that's when, about the same time I got out of, San Diego State Penitentiary, that's when you called me. It was like, hey, dude, I got a business idea. Like, what do you think about this? And I was like, that's cool, man. Have fun. And
I was like, no.
Yeah, like, that's not what I'm asking. Like, do you want to do this thing? And I was like, me? Nah, dude, I'm good. But I promise.
And then you said, give me a couple days. Hold on, I'm moving. And then you hung up and you were like, he ain't gonna call me back. 2 days later.
Oh yeah,
and you were like, what's up, man? And I was like, hey, did you think about it? And you were like, think about what? I was like, that business idea. And you're like, and that's when you were like, are you serious?
Oh yeah. No, he was serious. Here we are. So we came back over here, man, and I had an opportunity to take another job, and I told my wife, bro, I was like, that's when I realized, and I'm not saying this to deter anybody from what they're doing, and like my thoughts and opinions have nothing to do with the DOD and its affiliates. But that was the time in my life where I stepped back and I was like, I gotta take care of me. I gotta take care of my family, and I gotta stop worrying about taking care of the Army, because it's a big old choo-choo train, man.
It's a machine.
It don't stop. You jump off and try to run as hard as you can to keep a feet, but you will fall. And unless you slow yourself down enough before the train gets off, you're not gonna make it. And I told my wife, I said, I'm done. I said, as soon as we get back, I'll drop my retirement packet. I was like, I'm gonna dedicate my life to you and the kids and becoming a better person. She didn't believe me, of course, because she's like, okay, yeah, I've heard this bad song before. But, and I got back, man, and I started dedicating my life to getting out of the Army, and working on myself more, like trying to get my degree before I get out, trying to work on these certificates. And I know Mac's not with us right now, but God bless that dude. Like, I know he wants to shake me every time we speak, but like every time, he's like, Ken, did you do this? Did you do this certificate? I sent you the information. Did you do this? I'm like, yeah, Mac. In between the other 7,000 things that I'm trying to do, I did that too. But dude, it's been wild, man. Took me a long time to realize that like my worth is not what I carry away from the Army. My worth is not on a DD-214. My worth is not a degree. My worth is not, what others think about me. It's my family, like how well they do. How I fend around them. I'm really happy that I still have a home with my wife and kids, and that I'm not living in an apartment somewhere by myself. With no one. My wife, I appreciate her a lot for keeping the broken toy instead of throwing it away, which she should have, And I would never say anything different, but she absolutely should have just tossed me in the trash and fucking moved on, dude. She's better than that. But for some reason, man, she saw something in me and she was like, no, I'm going to stick it out with this jackass. We're doing great now. If you're around us for more than 20 minutes, you'd probably think we hated each other, but it's just all in fun. Like, it's, we're goofy. That's just our personalities. But I do stop and think about what I'm doing now before I just jump into doing anything. Like how it's going to affect my family. I know that I have to feed them and clothe them and all this other stuff, but like, I don't have to sacrifice them or myself or my time when it's for nothing. So it's been rough. But like I think that I'm finally getting to the point in my life where it's like starting to look up a little bit. You know, it's not terrible anymore. So now I am an old man, and you know, I drink bubble water instead of beer, and I get up at 5 o'clock on Sunday mornings and I go fishing with my father-in-law. So that's what I'm doing tomorrow.
Heck yeah. So I guess I'd ask you then, like, how do you feel since we started this like a year ago, and you've been on it since the beginning? You've seen the highs, you've seen the lows, you've seen all the work that comes in the back, the people you've been able to engage with, and then like, what is it?
If you look at this, if you look at what we're doing and what anybody else is doing, man, anybody else who's trying to get after like mental health and suicide awareness and human performance and anything in this realm, you can look at that and be like, oh, that's cool. You know, they probably do that on the weekends. The amount of hours that we spend, the amount of hours that others spend, the amount of hours that we put in doing this is astronomical. If we did not believe in what we were doing, we would have quit on month 2. You know, when we're going through, and I you know, I don't mean to sound like an ass when I say this, but like after putting in several hours of just our own time and work and losing hours of sleep and doing all this other stuff to make sure that this is getting out there and we're reaching people, the greatest thing for me is having those guys that we talk to and those guys that we explain our situations to and explain our lives to and then coach them on their own personal journeys, having them reach out to us on a weekly basis and like hit us up and talk to us like a mentor, honestly. And you know, guys will call me and ask me for advice and be like, hey man, you know, I was thinking about this. And I'm like, hey, you're a grown man, like you can make a decision. Well, you know, I was just thinking because like you know, you're like kind of my guy. And I'm okay, I didn't realize I was that, but it's awesome, man. Like it really makes you feel like you're doing something when you have like a whole contacts list of dudes that you need to call and talk to every week, or you don't even have to call and talk to them. They will reach out. They will call and talk to you. Whether it's crazy because it's like girl problems. It's like little issues that they're having in school, or you know, with the soldiers, man, it's like my NCO yelled at me, what should I do? And I'm like, hey, you got to calm down, bro. Don't be, but that makes me feel good, man, that like we can give back to those people and like give back to the guys that were following in our footsteps, essentially.
Yeah.
Definitely makes you feel good.
No, 100%. And I think we're in this for the long haul, and there's a lot that comes out of these stories, even though they're very condensed, right? Like your whole life story was very condensed in a short amount of time, but there's a lot that I think the most important thing is that somebody out there is probably living some part of that right now.
Right.
Right? It's guaranteed. I mean, I guarantee I could probably look through my contact list and see and probably pick people that are going through hard marriage problems, definitely financial problems.
Dude, we had a conversation last week with a young lady, and we were talking to her about some of the issues and things that she was having, and I was looking like, dude, how do you do this, man? Like how you, like she receives a constant stream of just negativity because of what she's trying to do. And people are like, oh, you know, you're this or that, or you slept your way through all this other stuff. And I talked to her and I was like, I hope you're closing an ear to that and like blinding that out of your vision. She's like, I have to. She's like, otherwise I would have quit years ago. I was like, yeah, keep doing that. Because
because when you look at things, whether it's this, whether it's, you know, what she's doing or what everybody's doing, even if it's what the cameraman's doing right there, right? It's the value is the person, and no AI, no external factor is going to take that away, right? It's always going to be the person and the value that they bring to that.
The one thing, man, that always got me, one of the soft truths, right? And I hate to say this as like a retiree, but like humans are more important than hardware. And that's something I like to tell people all the time. I'm like, dude, if it wasn't for a human, if it wasn't for a beating heart and a functional mind, like none of this would be here.
Yep.
So that never fails. Humans are always more important than hardware. And the people that don't think that way, it's crazy. Like they're on the wrong way, man.
Yeah. Well, you got any last parting words for anybody?
No, it's starting to get chilly out here. Actually, we probably need to turn this fire up, man. It's kind of...
All right, cool. Well, appreciate it. We'll wrap it up.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Till the next one.
All right, buddy.
All right. Out.